Thank you for joining us. And as Lizzie said, I'm Barbara Brandt, and I am part of the Community Systems Change Outreach and Liaison here for the Sonoran Center. And this is session 4. This is the What I Want for My Life series, and it's geared toward people with lived experience, self-advocates and their families, but we're also delighted to see professionals join us, and many people wear dual roles, as we know here in Arizona and across the country. This particular session is focused on finding community and social networks. And just like people without labels, without disabilities, we know we gain friendships through work, and that it's sometimes hard to make close connections and to feel a part of belonging. And so our speakers today and facilitators are Gabe Martinez here at the Sonoran Center. He is a person with lived experience, one of the peer mentors here, and you may know him locally. You may know him nationally because he is part of the president's Commission for people with intellectual and developmental disabilities. And that's a small but important group that is actually President Biden appointed people, and Gabe's one of the members. And Austin Duncan is here with us facilitating, and he's a postdoctoral research. Austin, I don't always get that right. Also a person with lived experience and of many talents, both in his research and his outreach to the community. Assisting also is Brandy James, and she has been with the center and is also at the university in another role, but is a family member, as am I. And so we wear many hats, and we're glad to join you. So we're going to talk about what's practical. How do you feel included in the workforce? What's worked? What doesn't? What feels great? What doesn't? And what are some practical ideas to extend those relationships in work, in community, and in life? We have two more coming in this series. And the next one is on leadership and how people with disabilities can be part of boards, commissions. Again, what's worked and some tips. And without any further ado, I'm going to turn it over to Austin, who's then going to work with Gabe on many important things they have to say. And you may hear Brandy and I chime in with some additional questions. And with that, there we go. And thank you for the opportunity to give this introduction and to be with all of you today.
Thanks, Barb, and good afternoon, everyone. It's wonderful to virtually see all of you, and thank you for spending an hour of your day with us. Today's session is going to be about social relationships, how those are related to work, how those are important in your personal lives. And as my research, I'm a medical and disability anthropologist, has shown, those relationships, even if totally unrelated to the things you're doing, can be the difference that makes the difference in your abilities to move forward and doing what you want to do in life. I know that for all of my research participants, the others, even if they were only helping out with little things like remembering where you put your keys, remembering your appointments, help with cooking, even just a little pick me up, a smile while you're passing in the hallway, those little things can make a big difference. And I want you all to keep that in mind as I have this conversation with Gabe, and we both talk about from his personal experience and also from my own experience and from my research. What are all of these social interactions, social relationships? What is the need for community that individuals with intellectual and developmental disabilities have as they continue to thrive in the workplace and in our community? Full disclosure, I also am a person with a significant cognitive disability. I was a very severe traumatic brain injury survivor. I had my injury at 22, and so I missed the official cutoff to qualify as a person with IDD by a year. But it definitely significantly impacted my development coming into my own as an adult, so I can understand from my personal experience. And Gabe's experience will definitely come out in the course of our conversations. So I invite you to think of us as allies and peers in this process. Now, without further ado, let's get to our very first question. Gabe, I hope you're doing well today. Can you tell us a little bit about who has helped you get to where you are today?
For me, how to get here is by my parents and my coworkers who support me through the things I want in my life. And it helps me to learn more things. I get reminders. I get a list for me to do things. I do those every day. I got my list. I got the item what I do, and I do it. It's part of the job. It's good support from my coworkers. They support me what I do. To get on the president committee, different committees I'm into, and they help me along.
On one note that I know that everybody would like to hear about, Gabe, how did you get to the President's Committee? What did you do, and who helped you at that part in that process?
In that process to get me into the President Committee by my boss, Wendy Karen Johnson. She nominated me for that committee. So that'd be a good fit for me because I've been working so hard for that. And I got a call from DC and I spurred in and did like a couple of forms to turn in, and I spurred in and I got in the committee, and we got meetings some days we got meetings and to get information about jobs, working with helping each individuals who has disabilities in each 50 states of America to find a perfect job for them and their skills.
And I would just add, because I was here for the entire process, Wendy Parent Johnson definitely nominated you, but it was you who got that position. Wendy helped a little on the side, but it was all about you and how excellent you are at what you do and helping other people get jobs. So, Gabe, now if you don't mind talking about it, what are the personal relationships in your life that matter most to you today?
The most is the coworkers and my family.
So can you tell me a little bit more about how your coworkers matter to you?
Because coworkers are make me feel comfortable, like polite, comfortable, confident, make me happy. It's like my second family.
Well, and in that case, how about your first family? What kind of relationships do you have with your family, and how do they help you today?
My first family was with my parents. They support me every single time what I make for my choices, and they make me like a happy man where I am. I grew up with like a happy person, like go around and travel, and I like that. And the now the way is over now in this community, and I'm excited to explore more things. And I did like different meetings, and so I met some people from Uganda, and it tells me when I go and visit Uganda, I'm thinking about it to visit Uganda, to meet with them, explore Uganda, and make me feel comfortable as myself as an independent individual.
Well, great. I really do hope you get there sometime. How about here in your community in Tucson? What are the relationships that matter to you right here in Tucson? Not your family, but outside your family, people in your neighborhood, in your community.
Right. In the community, as a disability person, as Down syndrome, we have a community down here called SANS for Southern Arizona for Down syndrome. And I heard that they're called Buddy Walk is coming on in October. And I'm thinking to apply that to visit the Buddy Walk to share my experience with the individuals who has Down syndrome and share them my experience and why I do and tell them why I'm going to help them and to explore working in the community and make them feel comfortable.
That's wonderful. I'll also tell a little bit about what my research participants told me. One of my most really intriguing and insightful interviews was with a man that I call Frank. Frank had a severe traumatic brain injury when he was younger. And the people who've helped him in the days since then were people like his mother, now his son, sometimes his neighbors. And the way they helped him, and this is important, was in what Frank called little things. Little things matters like remembering to pay rent, turn off the stove, things that I spoke about earlier. By getting those taken care of, or not taken care of, but by getting assistance with those, that allowed him to spend his mental energy thinking about other matters. And that made the difference that allowed him to thrive and build on his own strengths in the workforce, getting into the workforce, succeeding in his job, finding a solid relationship. Now, this isn't going to apply to everyone, but what's important is that the kinds of relationships that Frank had in his life gave him assistance with the kinds of things that he asked them to. Little things, not big deals, although he did get help on some of those too, but just little things. And that having that kind of relationship with other people, telling them about his need for that when he first met them, helped him really thrive later in life. I see that Gabe dropped off. Do we still have him in the meeting?
Austin, I think that we did lose Gabe. Maybe he lost connection. We're chatting with him right now to see if we can get him back on.
Okay.
Austin, this is Barb that is in the ether, so I'm here. So I had another question, and you can answer it for yourself, but also some of the people you work with in your research, whatever is the most comfortable. Sometimes when I work with family members and with people with disabilities, they say that, and again, my own life experience with my daughter, that there is a lot of information about caring for. So when you talk to other people, this person needs to have their medication at this time, and this is how you help the person eat, and this is how time that somebody needs to do their washing or they'll wear the same clothes. But there's this notion of caring about, not caring for, but caring about. And that is more, like with Gabe, if he was here, I would ask him. But the caring about is that we all want to eat his mother's Christmas food because of the tamales she makes. And it's not so much what Gabe needs to do at work, but it's the caring about his rhythm of the day and what brings joy. And we tease him about the Team Gabe t-shirts we want to wear, or what makes a good day for him. Have you found anything with yourself or your research about caring for and caring about?
I would answer affirmative to both. So going back to the little things, and how I talked about it depends on the individual case, what are the supports that they actually need. What really makes the difference in Frank's case, but also what makes the difference in my case, is that the individuals that helped me were people who did the assist. I didn't have to ask them for it, not because they were there like paid assistants to help me with the things that I needed. That wasn't their focus. They were just there to be a part of my life. And being a part of my life meant there are some things that I need help with, and I don't really don't want to ask about those, and I don't want it to be your responsibility that you have to do those things. I want you to want to do those things. Now, the real problem comes when those people aren't around. I am from Seattle. I have been disabled since before I moved to Tucson. So when I first moved to Tucson, I didn't know anyone. And it was very difficult for me to have those people around me. The only thing that I did as a graduate student trying to survive here in Tucson, and graduate school was not good for being a person with an intellectual disability, let me tell you, was very slowly, very openly and honestly, and very deliberately try to cultivate people in my life who would care about me instead of just caring for me. It took time. I needed to be honest with them about what my issues were that I might sometimes need help with. I needed them to want to be in my life because they wanted to be in my life, not because I was paying them to help me. Now, that is not to say that paid assistants aren't necessary at times. But what really helps, what really makes the difference that I was saying earlier, is the people who want to be in your life. And we'll talk a little bit more later, if we can get Gabe back, about how exactly to cultivate those kinds of relationships in your life.
Thanks, that's helpful. Sometimes I think our systems, and I've been a part of it, are very well-meaning, but we do a very good job on helping people have documents about how to care for, but it's harder to help people think through caring about who holds your story dear, who knows those things that make you not only happy, but it's wellness and not health wellness necessarily.
Yeah. And sometimes it can be health wellness. It's one thing I've found is that in our society today, as atomized and individualized as we are, every single person with a disability has different needs. And so when you have someone who's there to care for you, who's trained in exactly what kinds of things to provide, they may not be there for your specific needs or interests. So that's why it's really important to try and cultivate, both at home and in the workplace, people who are there to support you because they care about you, not just who are there to support you because that's their job or their position. Both are important, but you can't really have one without the other. I mean, you can't get by without having both.
Thank you. And we have Gabe back.
Hi, Gabe.
Hi.
Sorry about the technical difficulties. Can you just tell me a little bit more about what your work relationships mean to you?
Yes. So there's different communities who has disabilities, like Down syndrome, deaf and blind, and like different disabilities around Southern Arizona, like the native kind and different kinds of disabilities around Arizona.
So what about here at the Sonoran Center? You mentioned that people, they help you out, they write down your task, they might say hi to you. What does it mean to you that you have good relationships with those people?
I have a good relationship with them, like working ways or like different kinds of relationships.
Yeah.
And they help me, I help them. If they give me support, I give them support.
And that's a really great idea, right? So it's not just that other people help you. You also help them. This kind of mutuality is really important in building strong relationships. Gabe, can you tell me a little bit about what you do for other people at work?
At work, I help with kids in different disabilities to find a perfect job for them with their skills to a job. And I can master skills to a job, and I give them information about jobs and working, information about the different like Christians in a job, and they will ask the Christians, and they'll typed up some questions for interviewing and get those printed out or put them in email for them to look at what they like the Christians. And if they like the Christians, they'll enter those in each job and their experience.
So really what's important to what I really think is important, what I get from this is that it's really important to not just receive, but to give back. And that's part of building strong relationships, is to be mutual, to actually give help to other people who you would like to help you. Gabe, let's talk outside of the work environment for a sec. Who helps you in doing all of your daily activities? Things like, getting ready in the morning, preparing your meals, giving you rides. Who helps with those?
Those are with my parents, because my parents support me where I go. Like they order me a ride, like Uber, like Lyft, and back to the office, come back home, I get myself ready, get my clothes out, I showered, and get myself ready, and everything all set up, and wait for my ride to come to get me from the house to the office, to the office to the house. And it's like different ways to get me home.
So you're still having really strong, important relationship with your parents. They're helping you get around, help you get ready. What do you do for them, if I can ask?
For me to help them, like doing chores, like putting the clothes away, cleaning up, and straight up to bed.
Yeah. And how does that make you feel when you help out your parents that way?
Make them like happy and make them comfortable with a cleaner room and help shorten stuff out by putting stuff away and get the house cleaned up. If someone's coming, then get the house ready to clean up.
Yeah. So Gabe, let's change gears a little bit. Gabe, what do you do for fun? And how do your social relationships figure in that fun?
Okay, for fun, sometimes not working, I go out, like travel, I like to sing, and then I like to go around over roads to get like food, shopping, enjoy like hanging out with some friends, some parents. Sometimes I do like go to sports games like football, basketball. Um, that make me like do stuff.
Yeah, great. So, Gabe, who do you go to those sports games with?
With my dad because my dad helps with a different things in house department with him. Yeah. He sells insurance and he gets some tickets for basketball games or football games.
Right, so going to the sports games and you're who do you support at those sports games?
Arizona.
You go for those Wildcats. Yeah, Gabe, I know we've talked about this before. You mentioned before that you go to visit your cousins in Nogales sometimes. Tell me about that a little bit.
Okay, my cousin has a disability in Nogales, and me and him have good connection, good relationship. Me and him talk a lot every day. I help him, I help me, he helps me, and we talk a lot. And I call him every day, he call me every day. It's like good cousins together, and he's one of my cousins from my mom's side of the family, and he's a good supportive. I do I'm telling him about working and tell him to be like comfortable and being supportive.
Yeah. So yeah, it sounds like, being supportive, like, and it's not just again that he's supportive of you, you're also supportive of him. That it's that mutuality that you both have disabilities, you both help each other out. When you hang out together, you both have fun together. Gabe, what do the two of you do for fun?
For fun, we're going to family vacations. The first one we went to are Banks in North Carolina. And the second one we went to was to Gulf Shores, to Alabama. Mm-hmm. And it was fun. It was like sightseeing. We had a house there to live in, like getting food, having dinner, lunch, breakfast, go on the beach, and have some fun.
Yeah. Well, that everyone needs that in their life. Trust me, I need it too. I would love to have some fun with my friends right now. So Gabe, overall, do you feel like you need or you want more social interaction in your life?
Yeah.
What do you mean? Tell me more about that.
It means like I need someone to talk with, like my cousin or my aunt, my uncle, or my parents to talk with.
What about at work? Do you feel like you have good social relationships at work, or do you want some more?
I got good work relationships with each one of my coworkers, like Brandy, Barb, Austin, Lizzie, Eva. Those are good coworkers, and I can talk with, and they support me what I do. And if we have events, we go to Lizzie. She shows events, what days, what times. We can schedule the events, and I can help with that for each email that I look every day at the events schedule at Monday.com, and it helps what things have to be done. And you get a small list of each events to be done, like recording, sending emails, and the dates. That'd be good for them to understand about scheduling the events.
Yeah, I can just chime in from my own experience with you. Like I really look forward to working with Gabe when he's able to come into the office. Gabe just makes everything better by just sort of his positive attitude and the fact that he's not only is he there and positive, but he actually actively seeks to help out with whatever we're doing. And we love that about him. And it's really useful to me because as a traumatic brain injury survivor, I have plenty of needs for even just basic social contact at work that, of course, isn't always possible when it's just a work relationship. It's important to be able to have those kinds of relationships at work that every once in a while I can just talk about what I did over the weekend or where I went. I can talk about, if I'm having a rough day, I can find a shoulder to lean on, things like that. And so workplace relationships are workplace relationships. They're not exactly like your outside of your normal relationships in your everyday life, but they can really help give you some of the things that you need to get by during the day at work. I get reminders from people. I know Gabe does as well. I love being able to just stop by and chat with people in my office. And again, the ways that I make those relationships are by finding common ground that we share. My life as being a severe traumatic brain injury survivor and academic is different from most people's, but that doesn't mean that there aren't plenty of things we can share. I can talk about things like the Wildcats basketball game the night before. I can talk about, what I like places that I like to eat in Tucson. I could talk about the trip that I took down to Nogales the other week, just sort of like what Gabe does. And it's basically just trying to have a mutual relationship with individuals, showing that you're interested in what they're interested in and showing real interest in what they're doing at the same time as being vulnerable to a degree with what you're doing. Like, I'm having a rough day today, so I mention it. Or I had a really good week last week and I talk about it. Or I say, how's your day going? For example, how are you doing with this very long run of triple digit degree temperatures that we've been having this summer? Just these little things, the kind of like a little olive branch that I extend to other people in our interactions, showing interest in what they're doing, what their positions are, helps us build that kind of mutual relationship that I care about you, you care about me. So it's not just care for, it's not just they do things for me, it's we do things for each other, which then allows us to start taking care of all the little things that we're dealing with. So Gabe, Barb, I see you coming off mute.
Yeah, I just wanted to reinforce that and some people with disabilities have often mentioned that there's an aha for people that express themselves verbally or through other means, that there's an aha for many along the way, that they are always doing, they're getting things. They get supports and services, which are really needed, either in their school years or they get it as adults. And often they're paid supports. Sometimes they're not paid supports, but people are doing for. That was working with somebody recently that sorry, I'm from Idaho, were going around their elbow to get to their ear to fill out their redetermination to keep their access coverage. And they had the aha that they needed to learn and found out wonderful things by what you just said, that you were asking how other people were doing. You had noticed somebody had a day that they didn't look so well, or they might have seemed a little down. And the reciprocity was so important in building strong relationships. And that there's even been some providers, agencies that have worked quite hard in helping people find out when family birthdays are, when friends' birthdays are, to send cards, either virtual or through the regular mail. And it's been wonderful for people to say, I'm doing something. I'm sending a birthday card. I'm not just receiving. And how that reciprocity is sometimes the doorway to building other relationships. So I'm really glad that you raised that.
Right. And oh shoot, I just lost my point.
That's probably my fault.
No, I was going to say something in reaction to what you were saying, and I lost it. But and this was it. Being reciprocal, being willing to do things for other people, showing interest in other people does not mean that you need to not ask for the things that you need to ask for. And you should not be afraid to mention the things that you need support and you need help with. I will tell you a very personal story. For a long time, I was trying to see, so I'm obviously, I can pass as not disabled relatively easily. However, in graduate school, I tried to do that for the first 2 years of the program. I didn't get any assistance. And of course, partly that's because I had some conflicts with the Disability Services Office, but I was more or less trying to do it without any accommodations or support. I had an absolute collapse my third year. It really destroyed me inside, and I actually had to take doctor required medical leave for 6 months from my program. Went back home, lived with my parents, had people around me who really showed care about me and were really there to help out with whatever I need. Give me a smile every once in a while. Ask how I was, and then let me ask how they were in return. And then when I came back, I did so with a very concrete plan to, at the beginning of my professional relationships, maybe not at the very beginning, but early on in my professional relationships, explain what my disability meant and where I did have needs for assistance, and not be ashamed of doing that, not be timid, and not think for 1 second that I didn't deserve that. This is a guaranteed right that all of us who have disabilities have, and we shouldn't be ashamed to ask for it. That doesn't mean that in my interactions with my coworkers, I only focus on my disability. Of course not. But it means that I'm clear and upfront about what my disability needs and requirements are. And then we can begin the process of mutuality where I'm showing interest and concern for them, and then expect the same from them for me. So, Gabe, as a last question before we open it up to questions from the audience, I'd just like to ask you, what advice would you give to others who are trying to develop new social relationships?
For other tips for you, that be comfortable with any individuals in ourselves, to be comfortable and be adventured and be like confident and happiness for each others, and respectful too.
That's wonderful advice. And Gabe, that's exactly right. Be comfortable and confident in yourself. I realize that there are plenty of times that we all get down on ourselves, but recognize that your disability, our disabilities, do not mean that we're less than. Do not mean that we have special needs, even though that's often a phrase that gets used for us. We have human needs. Our needs are slightly different than everyone else's, but they're still human needs. And so that doesn't stop us, just because we have need for something doesn't stop us from also giving in return, showing interest, supporting others. This is really how you build relationships, is by that mutuality, and also by not being ashamed of the needs and accommodation requirements that you do have. Gabe, how about at work? What would you recommend to other people trying to build new relationships at work?
You can build relationships with your coworkers and make them feel comfortable with you and respect them too, because we are people who has feelings from each one. And if that feelings get comfortable and strong, then you can respect them.
That is absolutely wonderful advice. If you want to start building new relationships at work, show interest in what other people are doing, respect them, and also respect yourself. Respect that you and everyone are all individuals who all have feelings. You all have a right to have some sort of social relationship. So, Gabe, how about in the community? What if somebody who is working wants to build relationships with neighbors and friends, neighbors and others in their community? How would you recommend going about doing that?
Right. To share good experience for each one and get them to be polite and respect with the answer and the question together. And that will make them like comfortable with you and make them like happy and excited.
And that's a really great point, Gabe, that, it doesn't happen right away. You build it, right? And you build it. That starts by being respectful, by showing interest. And then gradually you start to really enjoy each other's company. It's not like, it's got to be love at first sight with everyone reaching out in the community. But just because other people in the community, might not be people that you've known before, or might not be just like people you've known before, doesn't mean that they don't necessarily want to know you, and doesn't mean that you can't start a new relationship with them. So give it a try, but remember, be respectful, show interest in what they are that is within reason, and they will show interest in you when they help you out, when they give you those little things, kinds of support. Recognize it, say thank you, and they will in turn say thank you to you. Barb or Brandy, if you have any more questions, we've kind of gone through our questions, and I'd be happy to take any Gabe and I would be happy to take any questions from the audience if you have any.
I do have a question, because my shy gene is recessive. So one of the things I've been thinking about, and it may be a comfortable answer and maybe not, that's okay. Sometimes it can be hard to put yourself out there. And what might you share with others when your overture to be more comfortable or engage with someone at work or someone that you think could be a friend isn't always accepted right away? You don't feel that warmth back. What would you tell others about, well, that's okay, and it didn't feel that good, but what I would do next? For either of you.
Gabe, do you want to respond to that? I'd be happy to take it if you don't.
You can take that, Austin.
Okay. So this is, as someone who does have certain social anxieties, and as someone with an invisible disability that's often that many other people don't know about until they meet me, it's really hard to, get past those first few rocky moments. And the fact of the matter is that because of my impairments, they often come up when I'm speaking to other people. Here's a really good concrete example. It's kind of facile, but it's true. So I have a little bit of aphasia. And when I first meet someone, when I'm trying to establish a relationship with them, I'm much more likely to deal with that aphasia than at other times. And my speech can become very dysregulated. It doesn't sound fluent. It doesn't sound correct. There's times when I just stop because I can't speak anymore. And the ways that I found to get around that are to be honest about it, laugh about it, and then, if necessary, ask for someone's pardon. Say, I'm so sorry. I'm dealing with this. I promise that I'm not like this normally. That can come off as a little awkward sometimes. So there are times when it's just not going to work out, at least in my experience. And being okay with that took quite a long time. I need to realize that there are other people out there that I can be friends with. And also that even if the person and I don't hit it off right away, that doesn't mean that we can't still have a relationship. It doesn't mean that we aren't going to become better friends in the future. It just requires me to continually show interest in the other person, maybe not a lot of interest, but just, be empathetic, be open. And if things don't work out, we don't become friends, it's not really anyone's fault. It's certainly not my fault. It doesn't reflect on my character. It's just the way that things work. And so not beating myself up by that, but then also not beating the other person up either. It's not their requirement to be my friend. But if I show them respectful, polite interest, like openness to being friends with them, then they at least should and usually do the same for me. What if that doesn't work out? Sometimes it doesn't. And, then I have to go on and find other people to be friends with. I'm sorry, that's not the best advice, but that's from my experience.
I think so too. And Gabe, just one note about you, and it's an observation. You don't even need to give an answer. When you and I both talk about what we do for fun in our community, we usually talk about other things we do for work or about the disability community. And so maybe that's it. Maybe that's our passion. Maybe those are our relationships. And although we have others, that's where we've gained our friends and lifetime friends. And for some of us, that's kind of got to be okay. And people may introduce us to others in the community and outside our family. But I guess it is a question. Gabe, are you comfortable that a lot of your life outside of work involves disability advocacy?
Yes. That makes people make them comfortable, have to respect, be comfortable, like comfort from each one that they can make and have a good relationship with them.
So it makes a good day for you, for that to happen outside of work too.
Yes.
Okay. So we're each different. And I think I exhausted my questions because I should quit dominating it. So thank you.
Well, does anyone else from the audience have any questions? I can speak on this for hours, so but I'd rather not. I'd rather have your questions for me and hopefully for Gabe as well.
I have one. Dave, can you talk about how difficult in making friends within your community, and how did you overcome those challenges in the community?
Gabe, you want to take that about how difficult it was to make friends in the community and how you overcame those challenges?
Yeah, so there's a lot of people who needs friends, and that makes them want to talk to that person, want them to be friends with. And like their age group, or like an age group with their disability, and you can talk to them to be friends with you, and that make you like comfortable in their skin, and go like go to around like that person to talk with.
Ed, do you, I don't know where you live, but are you in Arizona where you could learn about groups there?
I am in Iowa, so.
Well, I think we might be able to send you some resources and ideas after this. So, and I know we have your email, so I promise to do that for you next week.
Sounds great.
And Ed, for my part, like I've found numerous challenges making friends in the community, especially because I've moved several times after I became disabled. And I would say perseverance and faith in my own self-worth really made a big difference. Becoming more comfortable in myself really, and becoming, I don't want to sound trite, but becoming compassionate towards others, right? So I realize, I have faith in my own strength and likability, and being compassionate towards others, whether or not it was because they didn't understand the disability that I had, or it was because they had never been friends with a person with a disability, or if it was because they were just shy and nervous, just like I was. So recognizing that other people have all sorts of, just like I do, have the same challenges in being friends with me, maybe not the same, but similar ones, and being compassionate for that. And then also always treating them with sort of openness and respect in the spirit of mutuality, I found has been the easiest way for me to make real good friendships in my community.
Thank you.
Thank you for your question. I really appreciate it. Do you have any other questions from the audience?
You can put them in the chat if you're not the kind of person that likes to come off mute. And that is fine. We'll give it another minute if people are sort of thinking through what they may want to ask.
I have another question.
Sure, go
Great.
for it.
Can you guys talk about a little bit about the relationship you guys have at home with the, because when you are from a different country, you don't realize that when you talk about your experiences moving around the United States across the world, you were in Uganda a couple years ago. Can you talk about the friendship you made in Uganda as an example to your move to the language there and to the culture there a little bit? What was the struggle about culture in Uganda versus your disability? Can you talk about that a little bit?
Sure. Well, I can talk about when I visited Uganda. I thought it was very beautiful. I was only there for a short while. I've spent a lot of my time living abroad. I've served in the Peace Corps in Cameroon, which is near Uganda. I've lived in several places in the Middle East. And one of the things that I always noticed when living in foreign countries and developing and interacting with other cultures was how important it was to be open. Because we all have understandings, and this goes for here in the US with disabilities as well, we have these ideas about how the world works. The world works this way. Well, for some people, it doesn't. For some people, it works a different way. So be open when you talk to other people for the ways for that those things work for them. Don't always assume that they have the same position as you do. And don't enter into this relationship of where your position is the right one and theirs is the wrong one, or yours is better and theirs is worse. We all have differences, just like all of us who have disabilities have differences from each other and from people who do not have disabilities. Try and be respectful of that, but then when they don't respect you, and this is difficult, it's important to find a way to let them know that they're doing that and that's not exactly okay. Within the circumstance, be safe and be secure. But when other people are being intolerant of you, your culture, your ability status, tell them. Find a way to tell them. If you can't just tell them straight out, try and find some way to tell them in other words. Gabe, what were your experiences like working with the individuals from Uganda when they came to Arizona?
When they came visit, I told them about my story, what I do for work, and to explore the community and be comfortable. And they come and visit us and show what we do for work and show them around campus and meet some people like Austin and Barb, Brandy, and Ella and Lizzie to make you like comfortable as a person and to be like respect them, respect you, and to be like a good individual.
I really think the message of mutuality is really important for everyone to understand, because I think a lot of times those of us with disabilities in the United States think we don't think this, but we're sort of led to internalize the negative perception of us as being less than in some way. And so being respectful of others means also being respectful of yourself, that we are all individuals, all worthy of respect. And so being worthy of respect means you also have to be respectful of other people. And again, that's sort of my real message that I would like to get across, and that Gabe would like to get across too, is that to really develop good, strong relationships, no matter where you are, it needs to not only be all about you, it also is about the other person. And so by respecting the other person, you're also respecting yourself. And if they respect you, if they respect themselves, they're also going to respect you. It's mutuality that's important. And being open to that mutuality and knowing who you can rely on to help you out when things don't exactly go your way is really important. Being able to have individuals to help you get through all those little things and rough days and rough times when you have them. For example, family is extremely important. And then also your relationship with your coworkers. I know Gabe and I both want to talk about how important our relationships with each other and our coworkers are to our success in our work and in our overall lives. Barb or Brandy, do we have any more questions?
There's one in the chat.
Oh.
And Keith asks, how do you find places to meet like-minded people?
Ooh, tough question. Good one,
Yes.
Keith. I'll talk about me, and then I'll let Gabe talk about himself. I find like-minded people among my disability community first, but that's not the only place that I look. I look in any community that has, for me, and this is my perspective, has a social justice perspective, is interested in tolerance and how we as a community can all move forward together. So I really look for the idea of mutuality and respect and justice in places that I meet people who are like me. So I, of course, spend a lot of time at work. And so at work, I started as disabled faculty and disabled staff work group. And that is Gabe and I met there. That is a place where we really come together and help each other and support each other as individuals with disabilities at work. But then at work, it's useful to find people who are interested in you just like you are interested in them. And I don't mean like obsessed with you, but just who are open to learning about you. So mentioning when you're at work, having a bit of a rough day because yada, 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 or I'm having a great day. My team just won their game last night. And then seeing if something clicks and starts from there. That kind of talking about yourself or asking others about themselves. Oh, did you see the game last night? Oh, hey, it looks like you're a little down today. Is everything all right? Something I can do to help? Just that kind of spirit of inquisitive openness and interest really helps. Gabe, if I can ask you, how do you find places to meet people that you like or that you will like?
Yeah. For me, if I go somewhere else, like talking to someone that they have interest with or have a good business, good relationship, with them. Sometimes personal, but sometimes like working in a good relationship in a working good building that you work with and enjoy with your coworkers, like having lunch with your coworkers or having coffee, like having good talkative with a person with.
I was going to be quiet, but I'll add. And I usually learn from my mistakes. And when I was a service provider, there's all kinds of places where there are groups, whether it's spiritual communities, rec centers, there's places that have free yoga, they have free anything. So a friend, somebody that I supported, not paid, wanted, who has, I don't know, I guess we've got to give a label, significant intellectual and developmental disabilities. She really wanted to go to yoga, but she needed a positive introduction. So I went with her and I went with her and I went with her. And finally, she told me, why are you coming with me? And more importantly, the instructor said, why are you coming with her? We'll get her home. So there's a way to help introduce people. And sometimes that's important. And more importantly, how do we work with others if we are of the system to make sure people are safe and know and listen to when to get out of the way? And that's a challenge for us as people that are taught, on the one hand, to keep people healthy and safe, and on the other hand, to see part of our jobs and mission to build inclusion.
I noticed that Keith has another question. Keith, you can either unmute yourself or just type it into the chat.
How do you make friends?
Well, as we were trying to say earlier, it's a process that is gradual and mutual. It's all about being interested in each other. So opening yourself up and showing interest in what someone else is doing, but allowing them to be interested in what you're doing. And so being open, putting yourself in that position where you can be slightly vulnerable to actually give the other person a little bit of yourself, express your interests. And when you do that, don't fail to also express interest in them. It's a mutual process. When you become friends with someone, it's not that they're friends for you, they're friends with you. It's a mutual process. And it does take a little time. I'd say I've had some relationships in my life that have hit off like that. We've just become friends instantly. Those aren't usually, in my experience, at least, the best kinds of friendships I've had. The ones that are the best kinds of friendships I've had have been built up slowly over time. And I don't mean really slowly, but gradually, right? We didn't start off being best friends. We didn't become best friends for quite a while after we were every once in a while hanging out. Basically, showing interest in the other person, asking them questions, being willing to joke and laugh with them, being willing to joke and laugh about myself, but then also standing up for myself. Gabe, let me put the same question to you. How do you make friends?
For me to make friends that they're in a classroom with a bunch of friends and they want to talk with. So I talk with them. They talked with me. We had good relationship of talking, and be comfortable with each other. And can do stuff with them, like go out, like hanging out, and be there for them, be supportive. They'll support you, what you do, like playing basketball with them, playing sports with them, and good friends from every day, and be like comfortable with them and be comfortable with you. They respect you, and we respect them back as a good person.
You drive a semi truck.
You okay, Keith?
Yes, yeah, thank you for that.
Okay.
Jared had just asked if somebody would drive the semi truck, but we'll move on. Thank you very much.
Okay. Let's give it another minute for questions. They've been excellent questions. We won't keep you longer than needed, but I know sometimes people take a minute to come off mute, and also it can take a little while to put something in the chat. Okay, with that, I have to thank Austin and Gabe so much for sharing so much of themselves and giving their own experiences and ideas for others. It's not always easy to talk about oneself and to be so honest and open about the complexities, the difficulties, and even those things that have worked well. This is recorded. And Lucy, can you talk about generally how long it might take for this to post for others to enjoy?
Sure. Within the next 3 weeks or so, we'll share out the recording with everyone who registered for today's session. So those of y'all that are in attendance here will receive the recording, as well as anyone who is unable to attend. And we'll be sending that out via email. I also just want to draw your attention to the chat. There are a couple of quick surveys in there. We have one for supporters and caregivers who may have joined today's session, and then one for self-advocates or participants. If you could take a moment to fill out whichever survey is relevant to you, that would be a huge help. Your feedback is very important to us in developing future sessions, and we'd really appreciate it.
And thank you for the kind words in the chat for Austin and Gabe, well deserved. And Edit, I did not forget you about sending some information on groups in Iowa. Thank you. Have a wonderful rest of your day.
Thanks, everyone,
and we
for your
appreciate
time.
you joining us.
Bye-bye.